Tahiti, £6,695 on the road.
Warning, a Snickers bar may cause temporary insanity.
I've won!
Buy one and you could win another one, instantly.
We were behind this big lorry, weren't we, Doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, a huge thing. And suddenly, the back of this thing opened up, and there we were. Couldn't see a thing.
There we were, covered.
Commercial union. We won't make a drama out of her.
Before you brush your teeth and go to bed, we'd just like to remind you that while you sleep, Mentadent Night Action Toothpaste doesn't.
Good evening. The news and sport from ITN. Tonight's headlines. 7 people have died in a fire at a cinema. The men who tried to overthrow Boris Yeltsin are set free. And the Waco cult members are found not guilty of murder.
And tonight's main sports headline, Britain wins a 2nd medal at the Winter Olympics.
7 people have been killed in a fire that swept through a private cinema in central London. At least 23 people were injured trying to escape from the cinema on the 4th floor of a building in Smithfield. Eyewitnesses described seeing people jumping from the windows in panic. It's not known how many were inside.
The fire broke out this evening at a video shop, which local people said was also used as a private cinema. Dozens of firefighters were on the scene in minutes, but the blaze swept through the premises. 7 people are believed dead. Long after the fire had been extinguished, firefighters continued to search the premises for bodies. One woman who ran to the scene helped an injured man who was badly burned.
He was sitting on the curb with his arms slightly back, but obviously he wanted to lay back because he was in some pain. So I said, "You all right, Presh?" So he just muffled something through the mask. So I said, "You want him held up?" He said, "Yes." I stuck my arms under his armpits and held him up so that he could, you know, sort of like ease a bit of pain, hopefully. And then the fire brigade man came over to him, then the ambulance men, they started bandaging his other hand up because both hands were burned. They took him off on a stretcher and they took him in the ambulance.
Police have been given the description of 2 young men seen near the fire laughing and joking, but neither police nor fire service are saying whether they suspect arson. The investigation into the fire will continue well into the night. In the meantime, the police are treating it as suspicious and as a major incident. John Draper, ITN, in the City of London.
The leaders of the coup against Boris Yeltsin have been released in Moscow. Alexander Rutskoy and Ruslan Khasbulatov, who failed to overthrow Yeltsin during last October's uprising, were freed despite the president's last-minute attempt to keep them in jail. Tonight, Mr. Yeltsin condemned their release.
After 146 days in prison, the leader of last year's White House rebellion, Alexander Rutskoy, stepped into the winter sunshine late this afternoon. Wearing a beard and dressed in the uniform of an Air Force general, complete with the medals that he won in Afghanistan, he looked tired and much older as the international press jostled to get near him. A small crowd of opposition supporters greeted his appearance with chants of Rutskoy for president. Earlier, the second rebel leader, Ruslan Khasbulatov, arrived home after leaving prison quietly by the rear door. Others released today include 2 generals who organized October's armed revolt. Shortly before the rebels were let out came a clear sign that President Boris Yeltsin was making a last desperate attempt to keep them behind bars. The federal prosecutor, Alexei Kazanik, announced his resignation, saying that he was unable to grant the president's request that the release be postponed. The result of today's events is that the victory Boris Yeltsin scored when his troops stormed the old parliament has been dramatically undermined. The men who launched an armed uprising to topple Yeltsin are now once again free to resume a leading role in opposition. Today's release is in large part due to the efforts of the new extremist leader Vladimir Zhirinovsky, and one key question is whether he will seek an alliance with Rutskoy and Khasbulatov. The White House rebel Alexander Rutskoy is spending his first night of liberty with his family in this apartment building in central Moscow. His release after a day of high political drama represents a signal defeat for President Yeltsin, who staked much political capital on a last-ditch attempt to keep him behind bars. Julian Mannion, ITN, Moscow.
11 Branch Davidian cult members have been cleared of murdering 4 federal agents during the Waco siege in Texas last year. 3 of them were Britons.
All 11 were acquitted of the most serious charge. Norman Allison from Manchester will be freed within days. His relatives are delighted.
Celebrations tonight and relief. I can sleep now.
I just thank God when I heard the answer. I just heard the verdict.
For relatives of the 2 other Britons, disappointment. They were found guilty on lesser charges. They could still face years in jail. The shootout almost exactly a year ago left 4 federal agents and 6 cult members dead. The key piece of evidence which the jury asked for, a frantic phone call for help from inside the compound.
911, what's your emergency?
There's 75 men around our building and they're shooting at us in Mount Carmel.
One of those acquitted wept today. One of the government lawyers, too. His case lost.
Those fine agents.
The verdict represents another embarrassment for the government, which has sought to shift blame for the whole tragedy onto the victims. The defendants are now in jail. Livingston Fagan from Nottingham and Renus Avram from London await their sentence. They face up to 10 years in prison. Bill Neely, ITN, Washington.
There's been widespread violence across Israel in the wake of yesterday's massacre of at least 55 Palestinians in Hebron. Israeli troops have shot dead 3 Arab protesters. The Palestine Liberation Organization has recalled its negotiators from peace talks with Israel.
This afternoon, the violence spread not just across the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, but deep into Israel itself. Smoke rose over the port city of Jaffa as rioting erupted. Palestinians continuing to express outrage over yesterday's massacre. The funerals for the victims of the violence are being held. Few Arabs believe that a lone gunman was responsible, and most anger is directed at Israel and the government. On the occupied West Bank, Palestinian radicals told me they are planning revenge attacks on Jewish targets. The town of Hebron, where the massacre happened, is under a total curfew. The military have closed it down and banned reporters from entering. But evading army patrols, from a balcony we glimpsed the scene. The violence continues, military reinforcements are visible throughout the town, and the casualties, even today, were mounting. The town centre now resembles a battle zone, as enraged